to Honestly Because, a space where we make it raw and keep it real with unscripted conversations. I am your friend, Anna Lucas. Alright, so in the last video of this series, we had been talking about how we were not sure if we were going to sign a lease and what all that entailed and everything that we were considering and all the information that we had to get. And in the case that we didn't resign and didn't find a house, then we knew that we had to have a backup plan. And so in that time, we had talked with John's parents and asked, if this were worst case to happen, then would it be okay if we stayed with you guys for a little bit of time to save up, keep looking for a house, and really save up what we'd be paying for rent, put down on a house, and towards our utilities and stuff. And so they said, absolutely, whatever y'all need, we'll make it work and whatnot. And so that was just a relief, because it was well, if we don't want to end up not having a place to go and just kind of be down and out. And so we're thankful to them for doing that and making that something that they're available to us. And we felt that would have been a huge blessing. And so, knowing that we had a backup plan, we talked with our realtor as well to kind of get her side, is this a couple months enough time to get into a house and everything, even with our financial stuff and everything, and we're pre-approved, all of that. And so she was like, yeah, I think that'll be enough time, let's just keep looking and plugging away. And so when the time did come, we did end up putting in our 60-day notice and stuff eventually, but we're not quite there yet. So we didn't renew. We notified our apartment we're not renewing. We mentioned earlier that our loan officer had gotten us pre-approved for a loan, but we didn't specify what that loan was. But that loan was a first-time homebuyer loan, and where we live in Ohio, in the state of Ohio, they do this with they offer different resources and grants and stuff for people who haven't bought a house before. And so our loan officer got us pre-approved on a loan from Ohio, well, partially from Ohio, where it was the grant. We got a certain percentage of a grant towards our house, but it would be that all the first 7 years of our mortgage would be repaying that grant.
It was worked in there.
Yeah, and so I can't remember the exact percentage of what it was.
It wasn't very much, because I've been able to actually take a look at it. It's not very much, but they somehow work it out that over an extended period of time, it just kind of slowly gets paid.
Well, I meant the percentage that they gave of the house for the grant, for the down payment.
No, I know. I'm saying it was small.
Yeah, it was
off the top of my head.
It was either 3 to 5%, no more than 7, but I want to say that's too much. And then, which I wish I remembered just for transparency purposes and how this all worked out and whatnot. But I do know that per that grant, we had to put down 3%. I think it was 5 or 7 actually, because we had to put down 3.
Could have been.
And so in that case, what was kind of cool is that with that grant is the higher the cost of the house, the more money that grant put down towards your down payment. But obviously then you would have to repay that. And so if we'd had per that loan, we'd have to live in our house for a year. And then technically to repay that grant would have to own it for 7. But if we moved outside of that, after that first initial year, then we would just repay out of that grant, out of the selling of our home, out of whatever we make. And so, granted, that was stressful and something that we didn't necessarily want, but it was also something that we felt blessed that was a resource to us in our time of need.
It at least got us into Like it was one of those things that figuring out some of that information, it's not like it's all super smooth,
Yeah.
but
Because we didn't fully understand until we're actually closing, like what
yeah,
all that meant. And like
yeah,
we felt like with our loan officer, it was like kind of like an aha moment of, oh, this is what you've been trying to explain to me. This is what you've been trying to tell me. It
yeah,
was like several conversations just finally clicked into place
yeah,
of like
yeah,
what he was explaining with the loan, with the grant, and all
yeah.
of that.
And at first, when you hear something like that, you think, "What? What? I'm gonna have to pay this back," and it can kind of
Get
get
overwhelming.
in your head a little bit. Yeah, but it's one of the, and he said it well too. The loan officer said it well because it's one of those things where when you go to sell the house and it's just accrued equity just over time, but then also things you've done to it
Mm-hmm.
that, let's say you made 30 grand off the house, but you still have to pay five. It's
Mm-hmm.
like,
Like
it's,
you're still gonna be well
yeah,
off.
like you're
Yeah.
still in a good
Because
position, but at first you're like, wait, what?
we just kept thinking like, oh, that's going to take everything. If we have to sell
Mm-hmm.
the house, that's going to take everything that
Yeah,
we are making.
yeah. Yeah, mom and
And
dad was sounding a little nice after that. I was like, I don't have
yeah.
to pay nothing back.
Yeah. And so, and then at the same time, and that was also with like our income range and stuff. We
Yeah,
qualified because of like our income range and everything.
yeah. Credit and all that stuff.
Yeah, like there were
Yeah.
several factors that went into that,
Mm-hmm.
but the main thing we know was like first time home buyer in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
And so John was like praying and stuff during this time. We both were praying, fasting, and looking at houses in obedience and faith. And John really felt like that God had dealt with him about budgeting for a house mortgage wise every month with in a certain price range just in case he ever was like laid off or there was no work and stuff,
Yeah.
and that we could afford it
Yeah.
with getting paid the unemployment and sub fund from the union.
Yeah.
And so that
Yeah.
we, if anything worst case were to happen, we could still like afford it and not
Yeah.
lose it and be in a good place, as well
Mm-hmm.
as our utilities and stuff, which we had to roughly estimate because we never own a house, but we're like, our apartment costs this much.
Yeah.
It's this much square footage. It should be about this much
Yeah.
extra. Like we were
And our
just
utilities at our apartment, there was like only one set fixed rate, which was our water, but everything else was per use.
per
So it
use.
did kind of give you like a feel,
Yeah.
for kind of what it would be, which I can say is pretty simple. It's definitely
Yeah,
pretty simple.
it's definitely similar, which our house isn't much bigger than our apartment,
Yeah.
even though it's like 2 more bedrooms
Right.
and stuff. It's like square footage wise isn't much bigger, but we're not complaining because
No,
it
it's
is a
still so much
blessing,
better
but
than, yeah.
it did help a lot to be closely accurate with our pricing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were houses that we liked it and we preferred in areas that we preferred with more space that we preferred, like because we're
Yeah.
thinking hosting, we're going to be here for a while, we want to be able to
Mhm.
host, we want to be able to have our offices, want to be able to have people over and stay with us if necessary, like all of that. And so but they were like all out of our price range, and then the Lord really dealt with us and was like, you need to stop like limiting me to these specific areas that I've called you to.
Yeah.
Like I can move and do things outside of those areas and whatnot. And so we started looking outside of the areas that we felt initially like, well, this is where God called us, so this is where we're going to stay and fight to
Yeah.
like live, which is ultimately our long-term goal, is to
Mhm.
be in that area. But that's just not kind of how it fell with the Lord.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing is it doesn't have to be the picture perfect thing. Like when God was saying this stuff to us, we definitely had in our head, because my wife and I are this way, where it's like to the T.
Mm-hmm.
This is what it's going to be, and this is what we have to do.
And
then what
unfortunately,
it'll
that
look like.
comes with like, we unintentionally assume, like as humans, what we think it's going to look like, how things will have to lay out in order for that thing to happen and
Yeah.
stuff. And so like we were trying to follow it to the T, but without even realizing it, our assumptions and expectations had kind of like placed a perspective on what God
Yeah.
was saying.
Absolutely. And then it's crazy and crucial because you do that and you can get more committed to how you think it should go. than God actually leading you through it. And then you can start having conflict and confusion with God because it's like, well, isn't it supposed to look like this? Isn't it supposed to happen this way? And we had that. We had
Yeah.
those times of like, well, what, why? Why here? Why this neighborhood? This
Yeah.
isn't, where you called us to be, and, so on and so forth. So it was definitely a very, just a very different and kind of updating process to our perspective.
Yes. And so that kind of like, we're going to jump ahead a little bit, or I should say we're going to stay in line with this timeline, but then in a just a moment we're going to have to kind of jump back in the past a little bit. But so like after we get to this place of like, okay, we have a backup plan just in case, but we're going to, even in that backup plan, still stay obedient to what God's saying, which is look for a house,
Hmm.
set yourself like keep pointing yourself to a house, and looking for that to happen and everything. We This was around the second time. Oh yeah, this was after the second time of having to tell our realtor and our loan officer, like, hey guys, like we need to kind of put a halt on everything because we are at a place financially like where we can afford it. And it was like, I know we explained this before, so we'll kind of brush over it again. But it was so weird because they're like, we don't understand. Like, you're pre-approved, all your everything looks good, your
Hmm.
credit, all this stuff looks good.
Hmm.
What do you mean you don't have enough money?
Hmm.
And it was just kind of like to the point to where it was like, we don't know, we couldn't even explain it. Like,
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
knew, which it really ultimately looking back came down to the down payment. Every
Hmm.
time we looked at the down payment, which granted this was a little bit before we understood the grant, but we still needed to come up with 3%
Hmm.
of the down payment.
Yeah.
And so, but even with that 3% with the grant, aside from the grant, we still didn't have the money that we were looking at houses. Like, okay, if we looked at a house this much, we'd need to have this much money. Oh, we don't have that much money. Okay, so let's look at a lower house, lower house.
Yeah.
Like, in lower priced houses is what I mean. And, so we kept going through that process. And like every single time we were looking at houses that felt drastically less
Hmm.
than what, like price wise, than what we had just looked at. And then
Hmm.
we still didn't have enough. It somehow ended up being like about the same amount of money that we'd had to put down. Same amount of money that we'd had to put down. And
Yeah.
we just were like so lost that like we don't understand what we can do then outside of like worst case staying with your parents and saving up
Hmm.
this much percentage of a money because we know we qualify for this grant and
Right.
everything. Like, and so we just got to a point to where we told them like we gotta pause looking and reevaluate. And we were
Hmm.
really discouraged because this seemed to oppose everything that God was saying. Is like, look for a house, it's time for a house. um I'm gonna give you a house, like all this stuff. And we're like, okay, we're trying to do everything we can, and yet everything that we're doing is like going nowhere outside of
Hmm.
like being pre-approved, finding a realtor, getting a loan officer, like that type of stuff.
Yeah.
um it was just like, okay, well, we don't have the provision to make it happen. And I remember because we had to be at church and we had phone calls scheduled with them. And that those phone calls is what actually made us say, like, we have to just wait.
Yeah.
And I remember we
Yeah.
hung up, we said, we're going to call you back. Like, we're going to talk real quick. And I remember me and you being so upset and like, I think we
Hmm.
need to like pause.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and that was so hard for us. So we had to call them back and explain everything. And then they were like, well, talk to this person, try calling this person, try calling this. Cause like which was our realtor, because she's saying like, this person might have, is better at doing these loans. So
Yeah.
they might be able to find you
Figure
more
something out, and
resources. Yeah,
yeah.
that will help. This one's better at looking into grants and stuff. So they might be able to find more grants
Yeah.
to
She
help.
she helped us a ton on that
Yeah.
front to try to just figure it out,
Yeah.
and it was super disheartening
Yeah.
when that happened because you can't help but feel like where did I drop the ball? Where did I fail? Especially as some young adults that are
Mhm.
trying to make it, in life to just on a basic level.
Mhm.
You're just like, dang, I can't even do the basic thing.
Yeah.
But I will say this though, it was mature, I believe, of us to be like, hey, look,
Oh,
right?
100%.
We just kind of need to step back because that pause helped me to understand that even though God was saying, hey, now's the time,
Yeah.
that what God says it is the time for, he will also give you time to mature for.
Oh, yeah.
And
I mean,
so
there was a lot of waiting
there was.
in preparation
There
that we didn't
was.
understand what he was doing.
Yeah, had no clue in the middle of it. You're just going, like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, or what did I do wrong?
Yeah,
And the
like,
whole
you're telling me to do
time,
this, I'm trying to do this.
yeah,
And then it's like not falling in line. So what am I missing?
yeah,
Like all of that. Like,
yep,
what am I doing wrong? Like,
yeah. And 90% of the time, as we have, like, coming through this process, it's not that you're just missing this practical secret.
mm-mm.
Here's the secret that will just make it work, in the function and processes of it all, and the practical side of it all. It's just that there's things missing in me that God is trying to heal or put in me,
Mm-hmm.
and and that's the part that I'm actually missing.
As well as like assumptions, your assumptions of what God said,
Yeah,
that in what you think that looks like
yeah,
there's also a process of stripping that away too.
there is.
So it's like, let's heal and deal with like the things that need to be dealt with before we move forward, but
Hmm.
also like now we got to kind of strip away
Yeah,
what you thought this would look like and how you thought it was going to happen, because now you're limiting me.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like, dang, like those are probably the two biggest things that I would say
Yeah,
looking back is what happens in like the waiting season is like
for sure, for sure.
that growth and then healing and stripping away of like your expectations and your assumptions.
Yep. And so I just encourage you, don't just put it all on you, like, I'm just messing it all up.
Yeah.
It's just take the pressure off, and then just go spend time with your heavenly Father. Like, go spend time with the shepherd for a little bit, and just let him work on you.
Yeah,
You
because it's
know?
also a reflection of like your wrestle with control. Because if you're willing to
Yeah.
take accountability, like if you're willing to take like
Like the credit.
the credit, yeah,
Yeah.
of it not working and it being on you, then you'll take the credit of it working and it being
Mm.
like working out, and it'd be like, well,
Yeah.
that, like, well, it's because I did this and did that. When really, like,
Right.
it's not in your control, and sometimes you fighting for control can also delay it.
Yeah. And
So
that's a good check on yourself,
yeah,
because if you take the credit when it goes bad, I mean, 9 times out of 10, most of us will take it when it goes
when it
good,
goes good, yeah.
and then you're just kind of like, it feels good,
And even if you're
but
saying, well, God did this, but I, and
hmm
because I did this, and then I did this, and it, but God, like
but God, no.
that shows
Yeah.
like that you feel like you actually did it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And even if you're trying to like give God glory for it, so I would just like also pay attention, like how much are you saying I when you're saying something that God has done
Hmm.
and stuff. And so, and I know it's hard because of like in testimony and stuff, it's like part of your life too,
Right.
which has been part of our struggle with sharing the story, because it's like we don't want any of it to sound like it was us.
Hmm.
Because literally it felt like we were blindly just following God, blindly
Yeah.
trying to be sensitive to what he was saying and obedient,
Yeah.
and like no matter what that looked like. And so we were we had gotten to church early because we were like, did we look at a house? I can't remember. There's something happened where we got to church early and we were on the phone in the car talking to these people. And then when church came around, we were so bummed out, like so down, so
Hmm.
low, so discouraged, so confused, and not understanding what was happening. Like, why did we have to be the ones to say no when they're telling us yes, 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 like you can do this
Yeah.
and stuff. And it just didn't feel quite right. And it just didn't feel like we were in a good place to pursue something. And at this time we also didn't quite understand some things with like the home buying process, that like if your financial falls through, like then that's a breaking of the agreement. And
Hmm.
we thought it would just be bad. We would put ourselves in a bad situation that we couldn't pay, and then we would be in a yeah, we would just
At least be like, it wasn't clear to us
reap
what
the negative.
that would be, but it was
Yeah.
just like, if we didn't, that was just not good.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
we didn't know what the consequences of that thing would look like,
Yeah.
and that what we would have to deal with.
Yeah.
And so we went into church and stuff, and we were just struggling so bad. We were just trying to pray, and I think it was prayer actually.
I can't remember.
Yeah, I think it was because I remember being in my seat praying, and you got up and like walked and was like walking and praying and stuff, and like came back and we prayed together for some time and whatnot. And and then I remember we like kind of just like left as soon as they were like closing out prayer, we are just like, yeah, we're gone. And then it was kind of funny because we both got pulled aside in different ways. Like you were pulled aside and I was
Oh
waiting for you,
yeah,
and I was like, you know what, I'm going to the car.
I
Like I'm
forgot. Yeah, you're right.
and I was like, I'm gonna sit in the car. I don't feel like I can talk to anybody right now. I just want to be alone, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And then John was like, someone had a close friend of ours had pulled him aside and was talking to them, asking him how things are going and stuff. And so he was like being vulnerable and talking with them. And
Mm-hmm.
then someone literally that like I had talked to in passing and stuff, but like didn't really know very well, saw me in my car and came and talked to me in my car. And I was like, and, like, this is no offense to them, this was just my struggle was, like, really, God, like, you really like, I came out here to be alone, and you legitimately sent someone to my car, like, this has never happened before, like,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, "Dude, okay." And so I immediately was like, "Alright, God, what are you doing?
Mm.
Like, what are you
It's a
doing?"
little too weird. It's a
Yeah.
little too weird.
Yeah, and so I was kinda confused, I'm like, "Alright, Lord, what is this?" And so I rolled down my window and, this person was being so nice and so kind and caring. Was like, hey, like, how are you doing? I noticed, you kind of don't seem like yourself today or something. Like, I just want to come check on you and stuff. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm struggling. I can't even remember how the conversation went, but there was like layers to it. Like, it was just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, we can't, like, I was answering questions and stuff. And here's the thing, like, I've learned that I'm actually a pretty private person, but like when someone talks to me, I like am pretty vulnerable and
Yeah,
transparent.
yeah.
But there are depending on how I'm feeling and like my struggles or whatnot, I'm like that there can be limitations to that a little bit, but I do lean on the side of being more vulnerable and transparent. Um, even despite me being a private person. And so there was like certain things that she was asking me, and I was like trying to explain, like talk to without getting into the details because I'm like, dude, this is just too much. There's too
Mm-hmm.
much to explain. There's too many years of things that happened. Like, and so, and then turns out like question after, like, I'm like, all right. It literally got to a point where I kind of laughed and she kind of just looked at me like kind of confused, like, and just waited. And I said, you're it's funny because I'm trying to like not beat around the bush, but also not get into every single detail because there's just so much. I
Right.
said, but you're getting like you're asking me like I'm to a point of like you're asking me questions to the point of like I have nothing else to do but to tell you. And like
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Like I trust you and everything I said, but and she was like, "Oh, like if it's too much, like don't worry about it." And I'm like, "No, it's fine. Like it's gonna be a lot." And so like I
Yeah.
start trying to like tell her these things like in which is everything that you've seen thus far
Yeah.
in all these
Yeah.
series, um that where we've gone back to kind of give the backstory of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Because obviously the stuff where we found the house and stuff hadn't happened yet. And so all these things that we've been sharing that of our backstory on like a house and God's promises and like our apartments process, like our
Mm-hmm.
financial stuff, like my
Yeah.
health, me having to quit my job, all of that,
Mm-hmm.
literally I had to tell her
Yeah.
everything.
She got the
Like
VIP access to all this way
yeah.
before.
Yeah, and so I'm, like, trying to tell her all of this information in short, and, like, legitimately, I start crying, and I'm like, "I'm so sorry," like, I'm not usually one to just start crying in front of somebody,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't mind to cry in front of people, but, like, I'm not just one to just, like, "Oh, I'm talking, I'm just gonna bawl my eyes," and I'm telling you, like, I'm, like, choking in my throat, trying not to cry as much as I feel like I need to,
Mm-hmm.
um and I realized like, oh, I have a lot of hurt and confusion from everything that we've experienced. Again, I'm getting choked up a little bit. Everything that we've experienced up to this point, um, because like it's been contrary. It has felt and seemed contrary to everything that God has said.
Yeah.
it has felt like everything has fought against us in everything that we've tried to pursue God in,
Yeah.
and that we felt his peace on, and that we felt like he spoke to us through multiple resources, and that we submitted to our pastor, and our pastor was like, yes, do it, go.
Mm-hmm.
And everything we tried to do and go and like be spirit led in. And I'm not saying like do in our own power. Like there's an aspect of that because it's like, well, we have to put action for God to
Right.
bless. But we're not just putting blind action. Like we're trying to be as discerning and
Mm-hmm.
spirit led and
Mm-hmm.
submitted as possible.
Yeah.
And so everything was like contrary and fighting against that seemingly directly in many areas of our life, and a lot of areas that we're not going to talk about right now, but like as time goes, like we will talk more, but like in just so many personal areas of our life, just this constant direct opposition.
Yeah.
And I realized like, okay, God, like I have to give this to you. I have to give this hurt. I have to give this confusion to you because like this is actually hindering.
Mm-hmm.
Like I can't move forward without that. Without doing that. And I knew that in that moment, like I can't move forward holding on to these things.
Yeah.
And not letting God touch these things, because in a sense I was hurt from God. I'm like, God, like, then why would you tell us to do these things if you knew this wasn't going to work? If you knew that this was going to happen and this is going to happen and this was going to be difficult and this was going to hurt and my health and like all of this stuff and stuff. So I knew like, okay, firstly, I'm kind of viewing this in an unhealthy perspective because it's not God doing it. It's not God's fault. Like, yes, is he allowing it? Yes. Is he going to utilize it for my good? Yes. But that doesn't mean that God's the one like doing it directly, like if that makes sense. And so yeah, I start crying and I'm like, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize like this affected me this much. Can you hold this for a second?
Sure.
That this affected me so much, and that this actually just tells me that I actually need to let God into this part of my life. Like I need to let God into this situation. And I legitimately felt like, okay, God, this is what you were doing. This is why you sent this person out here, was because you knew like there needed to be a revealing of these hurts and this confusion and everything. And so, and she was just sitting there talking and just so sweet and so encouraging and just was like, I'm so sorry, that's so much. And I'm like, dude, and that's not even all of it, like those are just the main points and stuff. And I'm like, I'm not going to get into all of it. I just don't have the time or the energy, or the emotional capacity at this point. But I'm like, she was like, I'm going to be praying for you, praying with you guys. And I told her, I said, so trying to find a house and buy a house and like trying to be obedient to God. And like, this is what happened. And like, I'm literally telling her everything. We had to just tell him no, like all this. And even to her, it didn't make sense. Well, if you're pre-approved and on paper and your credit and all this stuff looks good, then like, how can you not get a house? And it's just like, cause we literally didn't have enough money. And I said, I'm like, dude, you're literally where we're at. We're so confused. Like, why can't we do this? And again, with the clarity looking back, it was literally because we didn't have the down payment.
Yeah.
And so, and so it was just interesting because everyone we talked to, they just didn't get it. And John, I don't know how much you want to tell of your side of that night, because obviously we're still trying to keep moving. But I don't know how much you want to tell of your side of that conversation with our close friend, because even they told him, this doesn't make sense. I don't understand.
Yeah. He's like a brother to us. Shout out to JB. He just asked how it was going, and
because he knew we had meetings that day.
Yeah, because he connected us, with our realtor and everything. So like he was keeping up on things with us and trying to kind of be supportive and help us through it.
Yeah.
Kind of navigate things, and so he just asked how it went, and he could tell I was upset and unhappy. So I just began to share with him what happened. And it was just strange. It was strange because it was that awkward, sort of liminal space where you're kind of in between. And he could feel it. And he's just like, it's just not making sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, but in my head, I'm thinking, it's basic math, dude. Like, it's either here or it's not. And it's not. Like
Yeah.
that, it's not really hard, but it's so weird because that's what tells you it wasn't strictly a practical matter.
Yeah.
The
That's
practicality
good.
part was just clear. It spoke
Mhm.
for itself. But in our spirits, it just wasn't setting as though it was the settled thing,
Yeah.
you know? And and so
In which we told very few people about what happened in this
oh
situation
yeah.
and
No, we really the whole thing we've been really tight-lipped about the whole process, to be
yeah.
honest. But
Which I know we explained a little bit of, like,
yeah,
but
and some yeah.
yeah.
But then he just he's like, man, let me think, and I need to pray and kind of, what God's gonna do. And then he just had a moment of pausing, and he just kind of looked, and he just said, you know what? Pointed at me, and he said, God is working this out. So I don't know how, but he's working. He didn't say that he will work it out. He didn't say don't
Mm-mm.
worry about it. He said he's working, like presently working it out.
Yeah.
Um, and something that you said really stuck out to me because you said that you basically were saying, God, this isn't what you said you would do. Like this is not what it looked like, and I was
Mhm.
saying the same things, and it
Yeah.
reminded me of Jesus going to heal Lazarus, and he's like, "All right, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna heal him," and then Lazarus dies,
Mhm. Mhm.
and then they're
Mhm.
like,
And they said the sickness is not unto death.
"Yeah," he said, "The sickness is not unto death,"
And then like a couple days later, it's
and
like
then
Lazarus
he
dead.
dies,
Like,
and
wait,
he
what? You
delays
said it
when he
wasn't.
even leaves.
Yeah.
I'm like,
And he's like, but you said the
yeah,
sickness wasn't unto death.
yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
but boy, gone. you know,
Jesus is wild.
I know. And so then he says, all the people are there weeping and they're grieving. And they say, if you would have been here.
Yeah. So he knew he died, and he still didn't go right away.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, and took his time getting there.
Yeah. And so what's so cool is he then says, but I'm glad for your sakes that I did not come and heal
Mm.
him because he wanted to give them something greater, which was a resurrection from the dead. And no one had seen that. And so that just kind of hit me because I'm thinking, man, in our situation, it's like Jesus is going, no, this is going to work out.
Yeah.
It's not unto this, it's unto this.
Mhm.
We go, okay. And then this doesn't happen,
Mhm.
and it actually seems to go completely backwards.
Mhm.
And it's just like, what in the world? But I have to imagine that Jesus was there going, I'm glad for your sakes that it didn't happen yet
Yeah.
because there's more that I wanted to give to you. And
Mhm.
so,
More that I wanted you to learn and
yeah,
see of even
yeah,
himself.
yeah,
Yeah.
100%. Because it's like sometimes the stuff he has to give to you is not just the basic practical things like, oh, more money, here's more money. He will bless you with that,
Yeah.
but he's also gonna value what's valued higher than money, which is I need to get this into your spirit and into your mind.
Yeah, relationship. So
Yeah,
like, and like, it's not just like, oh, you need to heal this, grow this, change this. Like, no, it's like, but you also need to see more of me. You also need to understand
hmm,
more of who I am as
yeah,
like God, like,
yes,
and my character and my heart towards you. Like,
hmm.
that's a lot of times like the other part of it.
And you don't get to see that without conflicts and disappointments.
No, no.
Just doesn't really happen.
Yeah, if everything went smooth, then you wouldn't see. And if he just provided every need, then there would be no depth of the
Mm,
relationship.
yeah,
There would literally be no depth
yeah,
of like your understanding of who he
yeah.
is.
And then there'd be no need for him to even reveal himself because he just becomes a machine.
Yeah,
And you
of
don't
like
need to have a relationship with a machine.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And so that was John's side of the story and stuff. And so the night goes on. He comes back to the car. We go home. We're praying. We're still kind of struggling and stuff. And we just like we were not sure what to do. We're just like, okay,
Mm,
God, we're praying. We basically, and at this point, like, we feel like we're waiting on you, even like to do something, even though like you're telling us to do this.
yeah.
And so we let's see, hold on, I'm trying to make sure. And we were also discouraged because we were looking at areas of like that we wanted couldn't have. We're looking in other areas that we thought we could afford that weren't in the areas that we wanted and still couldn't afford that. And then, or the house needed a lot of work. And it was like, well, we can't really afford to buy something that needs a lot of work because we don't have anything to put into it.
Yeah, after we can get into the house.
Yeah.
Couldn't really do a whole lot with the house yet.
Which then makes it hard because then in order to buy a move-in ready house, like you're paying a price for it, but then you're not paying as much up front. Like it's long term. And so it's like really confusing too because we're juggling this in between of like, okay, we don't have cash to put into a house to do work, so we can't buy a fixer upper. We have to buy a move-in ready, but then this move-in ready has to be in a certain price range because we don't.
So you kind of, it's like you need a very specific thing for this to work out.
Yeah, and so, I can't remember how much time had passed. I know it wasn't like super long, maybe like a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think it was just a couple weeks. I'm pretty sure.
So I was sick. I stayed home from church. John went to church.
Yeah.
You can tell because obviously I was at home sick. I was sleeping.
Yeah.
Like someone.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember more of how that went down though.
Well, so I know that you came home and was like, "Hey, someone."
Yeah.
Well, I can tell my side. He come home. He woke me up, and he was like, "Hey, someone came up to me and gave me this card, but I didn't want to open it without you." And I was like, "Wait, what?" And he was like, "Yeah." And immediately I'm like, "God, like, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, my faith is like, oh, what's going to happen? What is it?
Antennas are going off.
Yeah, and so we open it, and sure enough, and we still have the card. It's packed up right now, but basically it was like a blessing. It was a check, and we're going to be vulnerable about and transparent about how much it was because we feel like it's important to do that because it's to show by the end of this how much God did and how little we didn't, like how little we had to give and what he did with that. And and so and that's not to belittle like what we were giving it by any means, because no, it was a huge life-changing blessing for what God was doing with us and has done with us.
Yeah.
And so
it happened like right at the end of our church service.
Yeah.
And so it was like, I was getting ready to leave, I was talking to a couple of friends and whatever, still pretty down, and then just out of nowhere, someone comes up, they're just talking, just asking questions, just basic stuff, and then, it's a little envelope, and you could feel like it was a card, and it was just, it's like, I wanted to give this to you and whatever, and I was just like, oh, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
But then it was just something in me was just like, I don't know, man. The Jesus antennas, Yeah. And I remember coming home. I didn't look at anything, didn't open anything up, and it was something that we looked at together. Come to find out.
Yeah, and it was just like basically really compassionate of like hard things. It's like I know it's like to go through hard things and feel like things are opposing you. Basically, I'm putting it in my words.
Yeah.
But like opposing you and like you seem like you can't catch up. Like it seems like you can never kind of get a grip on something. And and just was like, I hope this is enough. Like I hope this is something that blesses you guys and like is able to help kind of gain that traction essentially. And then they were so kind and said, and if you need more, let me know.
Crazy.
And it was just like what in the world? And like that's just such a God thing. And granted, John and I are not the people like to ask people for money. We're the people that's like, we'll work for money. Do you have work? Like,
Yeah.
and it's not
Yeah.
just like we're going to specific people. It's like, no, we're like putting it out on Facebook. So anyone who needs things done, like, and are willing to pay in
Mm-hmm.
a time. And I think we said that earlier in videos that that's what we did to get in our mommy apartment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And we were blessed by people who needed work at that time and was like, yep, come do this, blah, blah, blah. And they were paying us. And after, because we'd work our full day and then go do work for other people
Yeah.
and get paid. And so we're not ones to ask for handouts. And we've been
Mm-hmm.
very blessed, you know, that people were willing to pay us to do work for them
Mm-hmm.
and stuff in their time of need and stuff. And so we're not ones to like, oh, well, we kind of need more, so we're gonna go ask. Like, no, even like it would take a lot for us to go do something like that.
Right.
And even like with our parents, like we try very hard not to even ask our parents for money. And in the very few cases that we have, we've done everything we could to pay them back.
Mm-hmm.
And pay them back actually, unless they were like, no, it's a gift, take it, like
Yeah.
whatnot.
Yeah.
But that's really rare. And so again, full transparency onto the glory of God, is that check was for $3,500,
Mm-hmm.
which was a huge miracle. And we felt like, oh my gosh, like, you know, that this is insane. Definitely didn't expect this at all.
Mm-mm.
And
Nope.
we were just like praising God and thanking God, and we prayed, and then we called you know, these people who blessed us. We called them and we
Mm-hmm.
said we just opened it, like, thank you so much. We just feel like
Yeah.
this is like an on time thing, and we kind of like tried in short to like kind of explain why,
Mm-hmm.
and what we felt like the Lord was telling us to do, and everything in that. It was literally something that we wouldn't be able to do without that.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
I remember that
They didn't know the full story. They didn't know where we were at, like what we needed. They didn't know. I
no.
mean, even what they wrote was pretty open ended,
Yeah.
and but they just communicated that they felt like God told them to do it,
Yeah.
and so no one knew where we were in this part of our process,
Mm-mm.
and so it was just like, man, it couldn't have come at a better time.
Yeah. No, not at all. And like that kind of and you know, in the meantime we're still looking at houses, and that literally like made us like contact our realtor again. It was like, all right, like
Mm-hmm.
we need to keep
Where
looking.
that 5,000 square foot house at?
Whatever. Okay, we're gonna continue the search. There's like something financially happened.
Mm-hmm.
We have some money now, like and granted, which I'm gonna jump ahead of my notes, which that's fine. I feel like this is a good place to say, because it would be, this is the part where I said we'd backtrack a little bit. Um, so this was during the winter. In the fall, um, we had been like kind of struggling because, like we said earlier on, that God was dealing with us about getting in real estate.
Yeah.
And he had given us a word, which was like 4 properties within 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And it literally was at the end of the 4th year.
Yeah.
And we're like, God, you said, like, we don't understand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you said 4 properties, 4 years. Like, we haven't even like seen that, you know,
Yeah.
and like we haven't even been able to get in real estate whatsoever. All of this, and I remember we were talking about it, and we would talk about it on and off, pray about it consistently
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot, and wrestle through it and whatnot. And in this one day, I was sick again. And you went to go get dinner. It was like something for Myers for dinner or something. I can't remember. You were going to Meyer to grab. I think, right? It was
And
Meyer
I think I was going to get a haircut. I think is actually what I was
and
doing.
dinner. You were gonna come back with dinner.
Mm. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. It was That's what it was. Haircut. Go pick dinner up.
Yeah, and so and he said that he was praying, in which you can say we were praying, and like,
Yeah. No, I was just saying to the Lord. I was just like, man, time's closing. You know, I'm like, we don't have any real estate and tried to figure different ways out to do it, and it was either money or time. And
Mhm.
in real estate, you don't need money to make money. But you will need time if
And
you don't go the
depending
money
on how you
route.
do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending on how you
So if
do
you
it.
don't go the money route initially, then time and some networking and things like
And
that you do
also,
need to have.
yeah, networking, yeah.
Um, and again, those are all things anybody can do. But for us, just with a lot of stuff going on, a lot of things we were trying to balance between work and my wife's health and um, uh, trying to take care of ourselves and family stuff. There's just a lot going on, so we didn't
Mhm.
really have a lot of time, and we didn't have a lot of money, and so it was just kind of like I don't know what to do,
Mhm.
and so I was just talking to God about it, going down the stairs of our apartment, walked out the front door, um, and I just was just kind of like, man, I just don't know, and it was just kind of a wait, walk out down the sidewalk before I even get to my car. Um, I get a phone call from a very close friend of ours, and he says, "Hey man, how you doing?" And I was like, "I'm doing fine." like um,
Still breathing.
yeah, yeah, still breathing. I am.
Still moving.
Yeah. And he said, "Man, I want to know if you'd still be interested in getting a real estate deal." And I was like, sure. Because I'm like, I don't,
You're like, "Well, yeah, but
but right,
yeah."
because it's just kind of like with what, you
Yeah,
know?
you're like, "Yeah, I would love to." Like, but
Yeah, because
yeah.
it's just again, time networking, money. Like we don't have an abundance of any of that.
Mhm.
And so I was just like, well, yeah, like I mean, that would be great. However, this is how much we have right now,
Well, I
which is
don't
not
even think
really
you
enough.
said that. You just said I think you said you were like, we're not even really in a position financially where we could do anything.
Yeah, yeah,
And then they
yeah.
said, "Well, this is what's."
Yep. And then he conveyed what it would be to get into this group of investors all going on a load of properties. And he's like, this is what the base is essentially to be a part of that investing group on these
Which the
properties.
base was 10,
Yeah,
10,000.
yep,
And it was like everyone's pitching in at least 10,000. That's the minimum.
yep,
And
and
we were
and
like,
yeah, no, it's fine. No, and then he said that, and I was like, okay, well, we have five.
well, no, at the time he thought we had less
Did I think
because,
that?
you told
Oh
him
yeah, I told him we had
2,500.
like three or something like
Yeah,
that.
you're like, we maybe have 3.
Yeah,
And right now, and he didn't know how much we actually had until we came back, and which will explain it, but I want him to finish telling the story. But
yeah, yeah. I didn't really know, and then and he just it was similar, another similar situation where it's like, hey, the practicalities speak for themselves. They don't line
mhm,
up, and he's
mhm.
just like, hmm, and we're on the phone. I'm driving, and he says, yeah, I don't know, man. He's like, we're gonna have to pray about this,
Yeah.
and I was like, okay, that sounds good. And he's like, yeah. He's like, well, let's pray about it, think about it, talk about it with Anna. See what you guys feel. And
Mhm.
I'm sitting there thinking, feel what? Like, there's
Yeah.
no other option, dude.
You just told me the
You know?
minimum.
Yeah. I'm like, I
Yeah.
don't fit the minimum criteria,
Yeah.
homeboy. So I don't know what we're gonna
Mm.
do.
Yeah.
But he just said to pray about it. So I was like, all right, whatever. So I came
Yeah.
home, told Anna, and we were just like, all right, let's pray.
Yeah. And so he told me, I was like, dude, no way. And he's like, yeah, I just got the call. Like, after I was just praying and all this stuff. And I was like, dude, this God's doing something. And so he prayed and he told me how much he thought we had. And I'm like, no, babe, because, and I think I mentioned it earlier, where the amended taxes,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
in an earlier episode,
Mm-hmm.
where we had taken the time to, and in faith, amend our taxes, um, for 3 years prior, and we had received a check, um, from the amended taxes that the
Yeah.
IRS was like, hey, we owe you this much money, so here's the check.
Yeah, which that alone is a miracle for the IRS to say, hey, we owe you money. Especially if it's more than like $75.
That's funny. Yeah, which there was something weird on the check where I literally thought it was only for like $100 something bucks.
Yeah.
It was like
Yeah.
something like really tiny, like not tiny. I don't want to like sound mean, like rude, but it was like something that we thought was like insignificant. And we literally, when we got it, we were just like, oh, well, increase. Thank you, Jesus, you know?
It's like, all right.
And that's what we did. And we didn't even cash it because we're like, well, let's be praying about what God wants us to do with this. And I remember like we were like, oh, we needed something. I can't remember what happened. I think, but it was like, oh, we're going to use this to buy this thing we need. And so I literally went to the bank and cashed it. This was not months prior. This was like weeks prior to this phone call.
Yeah.
And I went to the bank and I cashed it. And they're like, all right, and that's going to be like $1,000 something, like, or $2,000 something, like, dollars. And I was like, excuse me? And they said it again. And I was like, because I asked them for it in cash.
Right.
Because I was like, oh, we're, you know.
I remember looking at it before you went to go do all that.
Yeah.
And I had the same experience. It was like 100, you know, like 110 or something like
it was
that.
like some, yeah, I think it was like at most like 175.
Yeah.
But yeah, I knew like it was not 2,000 something. I was like, excuse me? And they're like, oh yeah, you wanted this in cash, like blah blah blah. And I was like, hold on. And I was like, I'm confused, like, can you bring that check back, like? And I was like I thought it was only for like $100 bucks, like what? And they're like, no, it's blah blah blah. And they pointed it out and everything. And I was like wait, like I was like, I thought this was saying how much. And I pointed to the check, like this was how much the check was. And she's like, no, that's not, this is. And I was like, okay. I said, actually, me and my husband thought it was only this much. And I said, and we're going to get it in cash because we're going to buy something, like we, you know, whatever. And I said, but this changes it. I said, can you just deposit it into this account? And she's like, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I remember calling you at work. It was like, dude, like, you know, and you were like, no way. And I'm like,
you
yeah.
stole from the IRS?
Nah, they gave it.
They gave me the $5
They
discount.
gave me. And if they gave me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, no, I was like, he was like, no way. And I was like, yeah. And so, granted, then we literally, again, was like, okay, well, let's leave this alone and let's pray about it. Like, what does God want us to do with this money?
Yeah.
Forgot about it. Not that we weren't praying about it, but like just forgot that like had happened. And like, as always pray over, like, okay, God, what do you want us to do? Like, here's what we have. What do you want us to do with it?
Yeah.
Here's what we have. What do you want us to do with it? In all areas, not just money. Like, you know. And so, and then it, you know, life happens, so it kind of gets pushed back. And thankfully, like, no emergencies happened. So it wasn't like, oh, that's what this is for. Okay, let's do it. Because that has happened before.
Yeah.
Where it's like,
for sure.
we were given something or God
tried to wait till
blessed
God
us.
said what to do with it.
Yeah.
An emergency came up. That was like,
this is almost the exact amount. Of what, and it's like, oh, this is what it was for. Yeah. And so, you know, thankfully, no, because that has happened to us repeatedly.
Yeah. Like in our first, we married for 7 years. In our first 6 years of marriage, that had happened
every time,
quite a bit. Like,
yeah,
a lot. Or God was just getting us out of something we never saw coming.
Yeah. And so you know, a few weeks go by, maybe a month or two max. And then he gets his phone call and he's like, yeah, so I told him we only had like $25,000, maybe $3,000, $2,500 or $3,000. And I said, no, babe, we have about 5. And I said, let me check. And I like looked and stuff, and I was like, yeah, dude, we have 5. And I'm like, I know there ain't no 10, but definitely call him back because 5 is more than 25. You know. And so he's like, all right, he's called them back and stuff, and then they're like, all right, let me see what I can do.
Yeah, I was like, hey, you know, we crunched some numbers over here, you know what I mean? But we still don't meet the minimum criteria.
Yeah,
however,
in which that 5 was everything that we had. Everything that we had.
Like, bro, some people say everything, but they still got 20 G's sitting up.
Yeah.
We were like...
But that's in the account they don't touch, so it's not there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, this was not the case.
No. When we say that, it is legit.
Like, this was our 2 fish, 5 loaves.
Yeah.
Like legit, this was everything that we had.
Yes.
And mind you, remember, we had just stopped looking for a house. We had already been several months into our lease again. and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so we knew okay, the house isn't gonna happen yet.
Yep.
And everything. And then with this real estate deal, we were like, oh, if we could get into it, this could potentially give us the money for a down payment.
Yeah, that's what our thought was. And the thing is, we should say that our friends said to pray about it, whatever, and we prayed. We felt like God was saying, to be involved in this deal.
Well, and they said, well, I'm gonna go pray and talk to some people and see what I can do. And so we both went and prayed. We felt peace. We said, if God makes a way for us to do this deal, we feel like we need to do it. And because this is not the minimum. And then we were praying also, God, if this is your will to do this deal and we need the minimum, then we pray you provide.
Yeah.
And so then that person comes back and says, yes. So I talked with some people and stuff. They said, we're gonna
basically do it this way and this way. And
you can be involved for, and we're gonna make it work. They basically, short story short, or long story short, they said, we're gonna make it work.
Yeah.
You're in.
Yeah.
You're in.
You're in. Think you're out, Chet.
Yeah. And so basically we got on that check that same week. And was in our first real estate deal.
Yeah.
Come to find out, that real estate deal was hundreds of properties.
Yeah, there's a lot.
And so the Lord kept his promise. 4 properties, 4 years. He actually exceeded it because it was way more. Our first real estate deal was way more than 4 properties. And so he did hundreds of properties in 4 years.
Yeah, that we could be a part of.
Yeah. And so that was really cool to experience that, because it was like, whoa, God, you met and exceeded what you said. And granted, we thought our first real estate deal would be properties. We would own rentals,
buy and hold, have quadplexes, duplexes, stuff like that.
Yeah.
To generate passive income. That was the thing. I wanted to top out as a journeyman.
And it wasn't just to have passive income. It was so that we could have financial freedom in these areas that God called us to.
Yeah. It was
and it was also to have security as well. If anything were to happen financially, then we would have these properties that are still paying us. And then worst comes to worst, if we have to sell them, we have to sell them. Yeah. And so it was for many reasons. It wasn't just so that we could have more money and whatever. It was so that it could make way towards these other things that God has told us to do. Which is what it will always point to, is financial freedom will always mean for us doing more of what God called us to do, and financing those things and giving to those things and whatnot. And so, at least that's our prayer and our desire, and that's what we aim for, no matter what, as much as we can. And so, come to find out, we were able to get in this deal, give them the check that week, and then that deal ended up taking over a year because it was on an election year. There was a lot of shifting in the economy. There was some delays, unexpected delays that happened, and legitimately was like, when is this money gonna come back? And so during this whole time of buying, looking to buy a house and working with our realtor, we were like, so our real estate deal should be coming up. And it was literally month by month. It was like, oh, next month. And then delays. Okay, next month. And then delays. Okay, next month. Delays. And it literally kept happening. And so during this whole time, we were saying that to our realtor, well, we're this deal should be coming back anytime, and this is going to give us a money for down payment. Yeah. It never came. Well, it did eventually came, but during the process of us looking for a house and buying a house, it never came. And so during this whole time, we were like, oh yeah, I'm counting on. So we're thinking this 3,500, and then God could bring this money, this real estate deal to us finally. And that's enough. That's enough. We can do it. And then we're like, and then also if that doesn't come, which it was looking more like that's not going to come yet, that then it would be, well, God, you're going to have to provide. So it's either, God, you're going to use this to provide, or you're going to do it some other way. And so that if my iPad doesn't stop walking. So then this brought us to this house. We found it on Zillow again, and I kept coming across it, and there was a lot I liked about it. And then there were some things I didn't quite like. I didn't mind, but I wasn't like in love with it. And then one of the things was the area it was in. It was literally as far as we could get away from the area we felt called to, without going into like literally Michigan.
Yeah.
And I was anywhere south we couldn't afford because it was really nice areas under the area. So it was like we really could only go north, further into Toledo, rather than down past Perrysburg, Maumee area. Yeah. And so it was just like really kind of like, well, this is as far as we can go without literally going into another state.
Right.
And I had shown it to him a couple times, and he was just kind of like, no, I don't know. No, I don't know. And there was several times I didn't show it to him because for a while I didn't show it to him because I was like, this is so far, you know? But then we were just like, you know what? Like, whatever. Like, let's just go look. Let's go see. Yeah. And so we contacted our realtor, wanted to come look. We came and looked. And there was a couple things, we loved it. We were like, there was a couple things on my list where it's like, I need a place to put the litter box for our cats. We needed both have office space.
Yep.
And a laundry area.
Yep.
Like, and granted, I wanted it to be out of the kitchen, like away from the kitchen. That didn't quite happen in this house, but there was at least an area for laundry rather than like it was just in the kitchen. Like it's in the same.
It has like its own section.
Yeah, like its own little space.
Yeah.
And
it's not like the washer and dryer is under a countertop.
Yeah, no, yeah. And stuff, and so, which I think there was a couple other things, but that's what I can remember right now.
Those are some of the main.
Yeah, those are the main things. And so, and so we came and looked, and we were like, you know what, we feel like we think we feel peace about this, you know, and stuff. And so, but there were some things where like, well, why has it been on the market so long?
Yeah.
And was our big question. So our realtor's like, you know, let me text the realtor, let me do this, let me look into this and whatever. And it was on the market. It had come back on the market. We were trying to find out why it came back because someone had just made an offer and it came back. And so we're waiting. So we're like, okay, well, we don't want to make an offer because if there's something we're missing, like that they found in like the inspection or something.
Yeah.
Then we want to know, so like we're not putting in an offer and then paying for an inspection out of pocket and then finding out like this is why it was put back on the market and then have to withdraw our offer and like lose $400-$500 for an inspection that we didn't have because we were so limited financially.
We were really trying to put everything we could to getting a house.
Yes, and so literally every penny of that $3,500 we wanted to put towards the house. And so we were like, we don't have $500 to just waste on an inspection. And so we were like, if you can get that information from the seller's realtor, that would be fantastic. So in the midst of waiting for that, the house goes contingent. And literally, I'm not even kidding, it was less than 24 hours.
It was less than, our realtor was surprised.
Yeah.
It was like, wait, what?
And she was like, there's no, like, the only way this could have happened is if the seller's realtor let us go see it while there was already a deal in the making. Just in case.
Right, yeah.
It was just in case that deal fell through for some reason. And so we were like heartbroken. We were like, dude, this is the house. It had everything, that in our price range that we can. The peace.
It was just like, man.
John literally walking through the house saw Jesus manifest in the spirit, walking through the house, looking at everything and smiling and nodding his head yes. And we were just like, dude, this is you gave the approval.
Yeah.
Like you were saying yes. You were showing us that this could be that this
Mm-hmm.
is the place that's gonna like lead us into this next season of our life, of everything
Yep.
that you're calling us to do. And that this was the space that was really gonna birth these things,
Mm-hmm.
like, and take them to the next level, like,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
not necessarily that God needed this house to do that. No, but
Right.
there's just things that he chooses to use to work through to
Mm-hmm.
like
Or chooses to kind of lay
usher
out the plan.
in, yeah,
Yeah.
things. And so yeah, that's literally what happened. The house went contingent, and we were heartbroken,
Yeah.
literally heartbroken. And then let's see. I don't know if you want to go into spiritually what that was like when you saw Jesus,
Oh, yeah,
and some of the
sure.
things that you felt in prayer about the house, and why it was so confusing on why, and kind of heartbreaking again
Mm-hmm.
on like it going contingent.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it was definitely super disappointing. Didn't want it to be the way that it looked like it was going, because it looked like, again, here we are trying to get 10 steps forward, and then there's just 20 steps back that we cannot control. Even the people that you go to for help, like your realtor, is taken off guard. I mean, so much of the delays that me and my wife have experienced have been exactly like that, where even the people that should know things are like, wait, what? And so it was just like, Jesus, this is happening again. But we came and walked into the house, um, when it's like seeing Jesus in the spirit, it's, the way that I experienced it was like he walked through the front door, and not like the door physically opened or whatever, but that he came through the a point of entrance, if you will, and was just walking around. And we were walking around with a realtor looking at things, and I would just kind of like look down the hall or whatever, and it was just like he was busy looking at the house. And I didn't say anything, it was just more of curiosity, like what's going on.
Yeah.
And then it was so interesting because by the end, as we're leaving, or we're getting, I shouldn't say leaving, but getting done looking at the whole house, I look down the hallway, and at the end of the hallway, I see him standing there, and then he looks at me, like eye contact, looks at me and smiles. And then the house, like all the rooms, just started expanding. Like everything just started getting bigger. Like the house was growing, and was having more rooms and all this stuff. And it was just like a really surreal experience. And I asked him, what in the world is that? I don't know what any of that means. Um, and what he basically conveyed in short was that this was going to turn into the expansion of all of these things, like my wife said, whether it was promises. So, like, doing content, doing music, having an impact on our community, having people here, financial freedom, that this was just like
Ministry, being going
yeah,
to reach in the area we were called to,
yep,
giving as we have prayed to be able to give,
yeah.
yeah,
Like it was
everything.
kind of the beginning of all of that. That this was just almost like walking into a door, and
Mhm.
you walk in, and then as you're going through, you're like, oh, this is here. Oh, and this is here. So it was like this house was kind of that point of entry for us to be able to walk in and actually kind of begin doing some of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so, like, I kinda got a little bit ahead on, like, the house going contingent and whatnot, which I might have covered that in, an earlier video where we were actually going through the process of buying,
Mm-hmm,
which I do
mm-hmm.
believe we did.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But, so to take it kinda back to, we came to look at this house because we got that financial vision, we started looking again and we came across this house. That's literally what brought us to this house,
Mm-hmm.
legitimately. And then, and so the real estate deal, that deal was only supposed to take 4 months. It actually, and that was in October of 2024.
Yeah.
We didn't get that deal back until this September of 2025, this past September.
Yeah.
So a couple months
Yeah.
ago. And so that goes to tell you like how much God was like, nothing you can like do. You're not like, literally when he told us, like, I'm gonna give you a house and you're not even gonna take credit for it, like, legitimately, he did that. Like, he made it so that we literally had nothing, because that literally took our $5,000 was everything we had. So, like, we literally had $0 for emergencies, $0 for anything. If something went wrong,
Yeah.
if John got sick, we had no cushion.
Something happened to a car.
Yeah, one of our cars
anything.
break down. Like, if John got sick, couldn't work, we didn't have, like, a safety net, nothing.
Nope. But we felt like that's what he said to do.
Yeah, like, we
And-
felt peace, and so we're just like,
Yeah.
okay, well, we feel peace.
And it doesn't make any practical sense. Like, we are not, people that are going to do things that are purely impractical. Well, I don't know why it didn't work.
Yeah,
It's just we're going, God, are you sure?
yeah,
Because that is super risky.
yeah,
You
and,
know?
like, we only gonna do it if you give us peace and you make way.
Yeah.
We said, if you give us peace and you make way for us to do it,
Yep.
then we're
Yep.
gonna do it. Then we're gonna walk through that door, and that's
Yeah.
what happened.
Yep.
And so we did it, and so we had nothing for a house, and so then fast forward all the way until we get that $3,500 check, and we like, okay, we can do this. God's providing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
that was just like a
yeah, and even though it was still a little stressful because it was only about
was.
half of what we would need
Yeah.
for a house for our 3% down payment.
Yep.
And so, like, literally he made it so we couldn't do anything with the house. And so we didn't get that real estate deal back until 2025. Which it didn't come in time for the house in terms of purchasing it. And that was definitely God's doing, because of what he said. And the only way that it wouldn't be out of our doing, anything that we could take the credit for. And so the only thing we can claim for this process is that we were literally radically obedient to everything that he said. We came to a point to where it's like, okay, we're going to radically pursue this as much as we feel, as long as we feel is peace.
Yeah.
And we're going to radically pursue this as long as we feel is peace, and do everything that we can to get into a house.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be obedient, and we're going to keep looking at houses. We're going to be obedient and make an offer on a house if we feel peace about it. Like, all this stuff. And so that brings us to this house that we felt peace on it. We were going to make an offer, but we wanted to do our due diligence and make sure we had the information, make sure we're making a wise decision. And then it, went on the one contingent the next day, which means that someone made an offer and it was accepted by the seller. And so that started the buying process. And so, and then come January, literally a couple of days into the new year, this past January, so 2025 January, John was laid off from the company that he had been at his entire apprenticeship and into his journeyman.
Yep.
Into being journeyman, his first year of journeyman.
Even before officially being an apprentice. It was a while.
Yeah, and so you were there over 6 years, because you were a CW for a year.
It was over 6.
Was in the apprenticeships for 5, and then you graduated in June or July.
Yeah, something like that.
And then was there until January this year.
Yep.
And so it was over 6 years.
It was right after New Year's. And I mean, like
the second or the third.
And it was the third because it was
a Monday.
The first, weekday.
Yeah, Monday,
So it was as soon as 2025 hit.
Yeah, he came home that day and was like, I'm laid off. And I was like, no way. And that was, again, contrary to everything that God was saying, because it was like, you're telling us to do all this stuff, to get a house.
Yeah.
And you just let allowed my husband to get laid off.
Yeah. And even just before the year turned to 2025.
Yeah.
I was in prayer one morning, and I felt like God said that 2025 would be our most abundant year yet. In all things, whether it's financial, all these different categories.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh wow, okay, and usually he says something like that. I'm like, well, what do we need to do?
Yeah.
And he didn't really say anything. And so then, that layoff happened. I'm like, well, I guess I see why you didn't say anything. Because I'm like, it was totally out of our control. But all in all, that layoff was such a blessing. It just opened the doors and so many doors.
Yes.
It's just been awesome.
So many doors. Because if you hadn't gotten laid off, we wouldn't understand the benefits of being a part of a union. like the
Mhm.
benefits of different locals, the benefits of
Mhm.
you being a journeyman and you willingly taking layoffs if a job's not that great or if
Mhm.
there's a better job on the book.
Yeah.
Like so much stuff that
Yeah.
opened so many doors financially, and not even financially, but freedom of time
Mhm.
for these other things that we're doing and stuff. And so that we felt like God is calling us to do. And so he'd worked there for 6 years. Um and so this informed John of like even more details of what layoffs look like and financially and what that process is.
Yeah.
Like on getting laid off, are you gonna like how to get another job, how to look for another job,
Yeah. How
how
to
to sign
do
up
it.
for unemployment if necessary, and the sub
Mhm.
fund from the union
Mhm.
and everything, and to even to work in other locals,
Yep.
and so then you like it was really like a really informative
Mhm.
experience to give us to help us understand and see how much control was in like literally
Yeah.
your
And we would
hands
not have known that.
if you hadn't been laid
Yeah.
off, because you would have stayed there, because we would have been like, well, this is security, this is our
Mhm.
financial security. You would have
Mhm.
stayed at that company.
Yeah. It was really the best thing that could have happened.
It was legitimately a blessing. Like
Yeah.
if we knew that would happen again, like I would do it again,
Mhm.
like easy,
100%.
to learn everything that we've learned.
Yeah. And put us in a much like the best position that we have ever been in with that sense of security.
Yeah.
But then also on the financial front has happened. And so it's just like, man, it could not have been any better. Like life has changed.
Yeah,
You
and
know?
so he temporarily for like a week went
Mhm.
to a really terrible job in the dead of winter, in fields. I felt so awful
Solar
because it was
fields.
the only job on the book,
Yeah.
but
Nobody wanted it. That's why it was still there.
and it was but it was to us, because we were still learning,
Mhm.
this was work was better than no work.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
it was like
absolutely.
at this point we were like, can we even afford you to be laid off with our rent and our
Yeah.
utilities and groceries, like
Yeah.
everything that we need. And like I said, we've tried our best to keep our expenses like really minimum
Mhm. Mhm.
throughout our entire marriage. And
Yeah.
so, we were just like really like, well, this has never happened before. If you've never been laid off, like you just take work if there's work. And the
Yeah.
job was so bad, and he thankfully has connections in the union, and he's talking to them and he's like, what do I do? Like, what are their options and stuff?
Yeah.
And that really informed him of the understanding of like going to another local, because there was books
Mhm.
on another local in Michigan.
Yeah.
There was jobs on the book
Yeah.
there that were better, that were indoors and stuff. And
Yeah.
that's ultimately what made him go to a different local.
Yeah.
And that's where you've spent all year
Oh, up literally until a week ago.
until a week ago. But you're still
Yeah.
in Michigan, but not out of that local.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so now he's back in his home local
Mhm.
and stuff, but in a job in Michigan that is still, but you wouldn't have found out of that job had you not been working out of
Yeah.
that local
'Cause
with
one of the
people
guys,
that knew that job
yep,
and said,
he convinced me to go to this other one, and I prayed about it, and I just felt like it was what I was supposed to do,
yeah,
and then lo and behold, it's turned out to be like, this is great.
yeah.
This is awesome.
And so, like, him getting laid off has opened up so much financially, because in that
Mhm.
other local in Michigan, they get what's called a vacation check.
Yeah.
And that vacation check is essentially a bonus check every month.
Mhm.
And so that literally helped us financially do several things that the
Yeah.
Lord was telling us to do.
Mhm.
Like in one of them, which was, and if you follow me on Instagram, then you saw that we went to Florida for our anniversary,
Mhm.
and to celebrate our 7-year
Which
anniversary,
is its own story.
which is its
Truly.
whole own story.
That
So
is
like
wild.
we'll probably
Yeah.
do some sort of video for that.
Yeah.
I definitely
Yeah.
I vlogged it, so that'll be coming soon.
Mhm.
But yeah, so like that whole testimony of Florida was a 3-year process, and that
It was.
only happened because you got laid off
Mhm.
and you got that vacation checks. So legitimately the vacation checks went towards our vacation.
Yeah.
And helped us do that, as well as some unexpected things that popped up and whatnot. Because
God is
life.
crazy, man. How again all things work together for good to those who are the called according to His purpose and to those that love Him.
Yeah.
And it is true. All this we can't orchestrate all of this. We can't
No.
arrange all these variables to get this exact outcome and it takes care of every single thing. Like we can't do that,
Yeah.
And so it's just our control. Maybe we could have, maybe in our control, we could have had some things that made us feel more stable or feel more comfortable in the time being for some things, but then this thing would have been left out, this thing would have been left out, the unpredictabilities wouldn't have been handled correctly, and we wouldn't be in this position. So
Mhm.
there's all sorts of just practical, here's what you do and don't do that we could have just followed like any normal human, but it was just that God would say, do this thing and this thing that seemed to disregard a lot of that. And it was just because it was in his hands. Like for a human, it does not make sense for us to do some of the things that
Mm-mm.
we did if
Yeah.
we are the ones solely responsible for the outcome.
Yeah.
But because God has more access to things and because he has more power, he has access to the cattle on 1,000 hills, we don't. And he knows everything, so he has access to all knowledge.
Mhm.
All of that is like, oh, well, if you pose that, it makes sense if he does that stuff.
Mhm.
And then you go, oh, I guess if I follow him, there may be some things that only he knows that I don't, that don't make sense for human to do, but it makes sense for God to do.
Yeah.
And so he's probably going to have me do some things that don't always look like they make a lot of sense,
No.
you know?
Because it made no sense for us to put our offer in on this house knowing that we only had half of the down payment.
Yeah, no, full well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in fact, it didn't even make sense for us to keep looking for a house when we knew we had no money.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
But we were just like, you're telling us to look for a house, so we're gonna do it. So like, I hope that it's kind of becoming clear the pattern of how God led us through. And the whole point of sharing all of this is one, to give God glory of everything that he has done in our lives,
Yeah.
in our marriage specifically, and especially in terms of this house. And but also to kind of show like that there is no like limit to what he can do and what he can use in your life. And also to kind of like share from our mistakes.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you know, of like I said, like our assumptions and expectation on God's promises.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mhm.
really hindered us for a long, long time. That literally took from the time he gave us the promise all the way until the time he put us in a house to strip those away,
Mm-hmm.
amongst other things.
Yeah.
And so like immediately, as soon as he gave us the promise, our expectations and our assumptions were on it when we didn't even realize it. And
No.
honestly, like talking with friends, other promises we have had in other areas of our lives, seeing other friends, hearing other people's stories. This is a common thing
Yes.
that people do is when God speaks a promise, immediately assumptions and expectations are attached to it. And we assume that that's what the promise means.
Yeah.
And that's just
So
not the
good.
case. And
So
so
good.
there's just
Mhm.
several things that we
Mhm.
hope that there's patterns in this that you're taking note of, that there's encouragement in this, on how God can move and how he's not limited to things that the world says,
Yeah.
like, you can't do this until this,
Right. Right.
and whatnot, and that following his peace above all is literally so rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
It's so rewarding and will bring you to different places that you wouldn't have known, because we wouldn't have gone to Florida if we didn't feel peace about it.
Mm-hmm.
If we didn't hear him telling us to go to Florida, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and so there's just so many things in our lives that like we hope to encourage others with, but it's not because it's our lives, but it's because of what God has done in our lives.
Yes. 100%.
And so I think that's it sets us up perfectly for the next videos to kind of give some behind the scenes on the 2 videos that started this series, which was finding out that the house went back on the market,
Mm-hmm.
putting in our offer, all of that. So you probably have already, if you found this video, you probably already seen them, but if not, then they're literally on a playlist on my YouTube channel,
Mm-hmm.
called Gotta Give Us a House, literally, because we literally did nothing to get it, outside of being obedient, like we said, and staying faithful to the process. And so, we will give behind the scenes of things that I wasn't able to cover in those first 2 videos moving forward. And even it'll probably backtrack to some more of like what happened leading up to those even more and stuff, because there's just so much that just like overlaps, and it's like, oh yeah, in order to say this, I forgot I have to mention this, and like,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Mm-hmm.
you get reminded of things as you're going. And so we're really excited to continue sharing this series.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. Looking forward
Perfect.
to it.